Chubb, the premier suppliers of security equipment and services, proudly present Aviation Sensation. Air shows, the image-building exhibitions of ingenuity and spectacular displays of brilliance. All of these superlatives were heightened by the graceful arrival over Durban's Virginia airport of South African Airways' brand new Jumbo 747-400.
Okay, we are the inside of the Jumbo, about 3/4 of a mile. Will be seawards of runway 0526. That's fine, just maintain the sea watch.
The conveners of the air show, the Durban Wings Club, were indebted to the airline for making the aircraft available for this low-level display. The Big Jumbo, the flagship of the Boeing fleet, was flown by South African Airways chief pilot, Captain Johan Dries, a multi-talented aviator. Beyond the enormous responsibilities of managing the airline's operational fleet of aircraft, Captain Dries is also a member of the renowned Chubb aerobatic team. The show goes on. The Chubb formation aerobatic team, evaluated amongst the finest civilian aerobatic teams in the world, crewed by a team of pilots that have each achieved a national championship status at some stage in their careers. Captain Scully Levine, the lead pilot and 3 times former national aerobatic champion. Captain Jeff Birch is the airline's Airbus A300 fleet captain of training. Captain Chris Rademan, a training captain on the Airbus fleet. Captain Laurie Kay, Boeing 747 training captain. Formation aerobatics, the extreme discipline of coordination and concentration. Flown with unique military precision, the Impala jet aircraft of the South African Air Force cracked Silver Falcon team joined the jamboree of thrilling displays of aviation showmanship at selected air shows only. The Impala, built in South Africa and flown by the Air Force as a jet training aircraft, has enhanced the skills of many hundreds of pilots who transferred through this aeroplane into the jet age. Climbing in excess of 10,000 feet per minute with a maneuvering speed ability of 300 knots, the aeroplane presents the ideal high-speed aerobatic trainer. The technique of flying aerobatics in jet aircraft differs vastly from that of slower piston power aeroplanes. There had previously never been an attempt to combine jet aircraft in formation with piston engine aeroplanes, but the challenge was put to the pilots of the Air Force and the civilian Chubb team to create this unusual amalgamation.
Well, initially it was difficult to think how are you going to be able to control the aircraft at a speed which is about up to 150 knots slower than the speed we normally fly aerobatics at. And you had to think to yourself, well, how is the aircraft going to control at the low speed? we obviously did trials on it to feel the difference in controllability of the aircraft. And then all of a sudden you realize that you're not only flying with different aircraft in different configurations and different speed bands, but there's also a lot of attention drawn to the formation. So that puts quite a bit of stress on the pilots.
Flying dissimilar aircraft presented a challenge, and months were spent in planning the details of incorporating the top three teams in one formation.
We've been thinking about this now for about 2 or 3 months. The leaders of the various teams got together at Lanseria. We did a big planning session. We went up, we flew with the 3 aircraft only together to see the best combinations. And then once we'd landed it and discussed it in detail, we went and wrote a full briefing. Our briefing is about 10, 11 pages, which explains in explicit detail exactly who must fly where, what must be done in the event of emergencies, what must be done in order to keep the whole thing safe and keep the thing functioning efficiently.
Commandant Pierre Duplessis led this historic
It's
formation.
the first time that the 3 top aerobatic teams in the country actually flew together in a mass formation, and it's never been done before.
That never been done in South Africa or in the world? Is there anything by
I think in
comparison?
the world, teams have combined to fly mass formations, but it's a first for South Africa.
What is particularly unique about, look, it does sound unique, but explain why.
All the top aerobatic pilots or formation aerobatic pilots in this country have been trained by the South African Air Force, and some of them, as you've seen, are now flying in civilian teams, particularly the Chubb aerobatic team, have all been ex-South African Air Force members, and that's why it is an historic occasion for us.
The commands were explicit and serious. The variables were incalculable. Never had such an operation been undertaken, and the risks of flying in such close company at low speeds was a cause for apprehension. While all possible contingencies had been catered for, the intrigue that surrounds a military event began to unfold. Operation Formation was in full swing. First in turn for takeoff was the blue and white Chubb team. The 4 Harvards followed to meet with their diminutive counterparts off Durban's beachfront. And maneuvering impressively into position, the Silver Falcons were dispatched to the rendezvous area. Zeroing in on their objective, Major Solomon's Harvards had the Chubb team in sight, and the first stage of the plan had been engaged. Harvard number 7111, affectionately known throughout the Air Force as Old Nelson. The 111 connotation was once again at the forefront of South African aviation history. Scully Levine and the Chubb team were creating the nucleus about which the operation would formate. Contact with the Silver Falcons was established. Flying at their minimum permissible speed, the Impalas were in abeyance. The slower aircraft were expected to join up and formate onto the jets. Their approach flaps extended and speed down to 130 knots. The Impalas were very sluggish and difficult to maneuver. Like all well-executed plans, it all began to come together. Old Nelson, the grandfather of the flight, was engaged in one of the proudest moments of its 50-year career. There were many problems that the pilots had to cope with.
Well, the main problem really is that of slipstream. The pit special is about the third the size of an Impala, and you get considerable downwash. And due to the fact that flap was also used by the Impalas to improve their low-speed handling capability. We had to be very careful of not sitting too high, because then you sit in this Impala's downwash and the aeroplane then starts to wallow and oscillate, and it makes controlling very difficult.
It was a proud moment and personal triumph for Major Solomon. Mass formation with jets and piston-engine aeroplanes was a result of the 50-ship Harvard formation flown in August 1990 to celebrate the Harvard's golden anniversary.
You know, in a way it was more exciting. With a 50-ship, we had all similar aircraft. We didn't really have the unexpected element of how are the aircraft going to perform together. So from the point of view of predictability, I think that the 50-ship was more predictable than this. But once this was up, and possibly once again because the experience level of all the people flying in it, it came together a lot easier than we thought. But beforehand we were all a little nervous. We didn't know what to expect.
The alluring and romantic era of aviation remains an endearing memory to aviation buffs capable of reacting to the classical images of the Harvard. Graceful in appearance, but undeniably machoistic, the cacophony of sounds reverberating from the 9-cylinder Pratt & Whitney radial engine has symphonic overtones to its ardent admirers. Commissioned into service during the early years of World War II, the aircraft was flown in the American Air Force and countries of the Commonwealth as a training fighter aircraft. The South African Air Force maintains the largest squadron of these aircraft and will probably remain in service for the next 5 years until their 60th anniversary. Almost every pilot that trained in the South African Air Force since the early 40s will remember the idiosyncrasies the aircraft presented to challenge their worth. Notwithstanding almost any twisting aerobatic maneuver, the aircraft's low-speed agility is marvelous, but very intimidating. Forming in perfect unity, the performance by the instructors of Central Flying School Donata has enhanced the skills of aviation that have been handed down through 2 generations to the pilots now flying modern high-tech machines. The team of dedicated flying instructors that presented the harbours in a display of aerial ballet are Major Johann Linder, trained as a helicopter pilot for the Air Force before returning to Harvard as an instructor. Captain Colin Gibson has also been part of the team for a year, previously flew light aircraft. Captain Tyrone Werner represents the team in the 4-ship formation and flies the solo display. Major Ian Solomon has led and developed the team with remarkable skill for 3 years. As chief flying instructor, he has acquired more than 2,500 hours on Harvards. The Silver Falcon team, a tribute to any modern Air Force, is led by Commandant Pierre Duplessis, who has commanded the team since January 1990, flying 50 displays. Captain Mike Bates is 30 years old with extensive experience on both the Mark I and the Mark II Impalas. Captain Steve Hugh, the youngest member of the team, earned his wings in 1983. Captain Barney Faree is the flight commander of testing and evaluation at 83 Jet Flying School. Captain Francois Naudet is a Category A flying instructor. He earned his wings flying Harvard in 1984. Developing a display of geometric profiles, the team's impressively smooth display includes 10 formations and 13 different maneuvers. A gentle 10-knot crosswind was blowing across the runway as the first of the Silver Falcons lined up on the runway to present a dramatic display of jet formation aerobatics. With meticulous precision, the Falcon show opens appropriately enough with the 5 aircraft assembled in a swan formation. Diving at 900 kilometers an hour and pulling the aircraft up through 4.5 times its gravitational weight, the physical toll on the pilot's metabolism is exhausting. With less than 1,5 meters separation between the wingtips, the confidence and skill of each pilot rests between success or a certain calamitous failure. Captain Steve Hughes' well-rehearsed solo display, a dramatic encounter with adverse physical forces, pushes the aircraft to the limit of acceptable safety, falling out of the sky and recovering from a Humpty Dump stall. A polished performance by Captain Hughes. The Durban Wings Club airshow was an overwhelming success. The aviation community of Virginia Airport have developed this annual event into a showcase for commercial and military aviation. Throughout the formative years of being staged as a local club event, the club and its members have transformed this airshow into a major annual event attracting visitors from throughout South Africa. An international atmosphere has developed into the show's repertoire. The Chubb Formation aerobatic team recently cast their die in other quarters.
Well, we were fortunate enough. We went over to South America, to Chile, as guests of the Halcones, the Chilean Air Force Formation aerobatic team. They hosted us for a full week over there. We flew over with South African Airways and then down to Santiago. And we were privileged enough to actually fly in the cockpits with the chaps when they were actually flying the aircraft. It was an outstanding experience, there's no doubt about it. They are probably the finest military piston engine formation aerobatic team in the world today. And although it wasn't an official visit as military chaps going over to a military setup, they treated us as VIPs over there.
The Association of South Africa's finest, albeit military or civilian pilots, could not have been more prominent than at the Durban show. An atmosphere of camaraderie blended with the exclusivity of each team's successful performance. The jocular rivalry offering nothing less than a stimulus, enhancing South Africa's monumental success in the world of aviation.
To us, it was tremendous flying with friends of, well, with our friends in the Air Force. It was lovely to feel accepted and to be with them. It was wonderful being back in a crew room together with all these guys and being briefed in typical military fashion and all the organisation that goes together with a military operation.
Captain Scully Levine, respected aviation personality and leader of the Chubb team. Jeff Birch, former Air Force fighter pilot flying on Scully Levine's right wing. Chris Rademan, trained as a fighter pilot for the Air Force, flies in the Chubb team on the left wing position. Laurie Kay, qualified as a jet pilot in the 60s with the Royal Air Force and later joined the South African Air Force as a fighter pilot. A question often asked, what is the difference between a military and a civilian aerobatic team?
There's no way that we can compete with the big military teams. They have a different formula. They fly mass formations from anywhere between 5 to 10 aeroplanes, such as the Frecce Tricolori from Italy, the Red Arrows of Great Britain. Military teams tend to change their, to use a lot of aeroplane and to change the shape of their formation, and their flying is very, very graceful, and they concentrate on formation integrity. We, on the other hand, exploit the capabilities of our aeroplane, and we do a lot of spectacular stuff. We stall turn in formation, we flick roll in formation, we do a lot of opposing maneuvers. We only fly a maximum of 4 aeroplanes, so we aren't able to change shapes. Our formula is completely different. Amongst the teams that we compete with, I would like to say that we are right up there with the top.
Chubb is ready. Chubb's clear takeoff. Wind southwesterly at 5 to 10 knots. Advise when you're finished. So can we go to street? AFib. Chubb go 1, 2.
The Chubb Aerobatic Formation Team, one of the top 5 civilian teams in the world for aerobatic achievements, has developed a show that embodies precise, high-energy maneuvers. Opening their show close to the crowd line with a perfectly synchronized loop, followed by a barrel roll, the performance by the 4 Pitts Special Aeroplanes display was strictly within the acceptable safety limits and a dramatic display of aerial choreography. The solo act pilot, Laurie Kay, breaks from the formation to continue with the show while the rest of the team reposition for the next act. Capable of withstanding any forces imposed on it, the aircraft with an unrestricted speed limitation offers an excellent platform to perform radical maneuvers. The standard of the display through the years has improved so much so that new and remarkable acts are continuously being developed.
We are one of 4 or 5 teams in the history of aviation that has accomplished the outside loop in formation. We do a full outside loop in formation. I would like to think that that is perhaps the most difficult thing that we do.
We spoke last year, you did the inverted fly passer, which was in itself a very difficult formation, and this is now a development.
This is a development of that,
So in
yes.
other words, the standard of the team is increasing as time goes on.
We reach a plateau of achievement and we maintain that for a while we work on new maneuvers which we then incorporate into the display, and we work towards a higher plateau. And with us doing the outside loop now, it opens up a lot of other possibilities.
Described as the most difficult of manoeuvres, aerobatics in inverted formation creates entirely different dimensions. Pitching upwards toward the vertical and outside loop, the control column is pushed hard forward. The effect of negative gravity causes a rush of blood to the head. Instead of being forced into their seats, the pilots hang tenuously in their seat belts at 3 to 4 times their body weight. This program has been presented in the interest of promoting the spirit of goodwill that exists in aviation. The Chubb Group of South Africa, leaders in high technology, security and protection systems, are committed to help uphold the high standard of aviation in South Africa.